All right. So I'm trying something a little different here. This is everyone's favorite little orange blob. Basically, today I'm taking a look at this channel I found. Of course, it's run by the stand-up comedian Ray William Johnson. But in all reality, I might have taken a hand or two in here, and I wanted to kind of go through my thought process behind when I made some of these videos. You can call it a video more for myself, just to kind of reflect on things and see what they are, and hopefully someone out there will find this interesting too. Before we even start this, oh, look at that mess. Look at that ugliness. I've been watching YouTube poop for quite some time now. I want to say the first one that I had seen was like a Phineas and Ferb poop from back in 2007. I was quite a young little fella back then. And for the longest time, I had kind of been telling myself that I'm going to get into making my own proper YouTube poops. I particularly liked a lot of the ones from Mecha Ouija or Swish Films back in the day. It might be kind of obvious if you look at my channel, you might be able to tell that from a first glance. Those really were some of my favorites back in the day, and ever since then, I've really been telling myself that I'm gonna give this a proper shot one day, and come to find out, it only took a good 13 years or so. And really, the only reason I got into it in the first place, if you'll take a look at the date, you can see it's early 2021. I had caught a certain little virus. I had my stupid little computer, I had a stupid little program called Vegas Pro on there, and I figured, I'm locked indoors anyway, might as well give this a shot now that I go have this free time to myself. But essentially, that's how this came to be. That's how I really came around to giving this a proper shot. Oh man, look at the insecurity. It is just pure insecure right here. Alright, but that's enough stalling. We're gonna get right to the video. I get off to a pretty terrible start here with this ugly mess right here. I don't know who I'm looking at here. That's certainly not me. I don't know who this is, but we're gonna go ahead and start this bad baby. So with this intro, I was kind of just thinking like have some sort of equivalent to any of the games that you poop in the source material, and so I thought the I Am Mean was my favorite out of all of these. Both the character and the source, I really liked the mileage people got out of those, but that intro got dropped pretty quick, I will say. I just didn't really see a point to using it anymore, because like it's pretty clear what you're watching if you're watching one of my videos. Maybe I'll do some sort of equivalent in the future when it comes to non-CDI poops.
Your Majesty. What? I'm going to pray to Allah.
You might be able to hear it, but at this time, I was still a little new to using the sources. I think I had compiled all these voice lines myself and used some sort of outdated program to filter out all the vocals. It's certainly not nearly as good as the ones that I use right now, which are mostly free of noise, and when you're sentence mixing them, you can hardly even tell that there was supposed to be background noise. And if you take a closer look at these sprites, I didn't quite know how to size them up, or at least render them in the right aspect ratio so they didn't turn out to be these little blurry messes, and you can definitely see these sharper pixels kind of sticking out. In the newer videos, I definitely like that look a lot better. Now, right off the bat here, I can kind of see myself, trying to be a little bit of a show-off, actually, with all these kind of shadowy effects and the colors and everything. I think I could definitely composite the scene a little better nowadays. I was going purely off of the Vegas Pro here, which doesn't have any kind of like inner shadow sort of effect. So I kind of just had to get creative with combining certain effects to get this look. Oh, look at that beauty. Look at that custom sprite right there. That's a good 5 minutes worth of black paint bucket tool. Same goes for this beauty right here. Look at that. Look at those pulsating eyes and this blurriness. A lot of blurriness in this video.
You won't get any pizza for dinner.
The beginning of one of the most overused gags in my videos. This video really was just me kind of making stuff up as I go. I guess it was a little more traditional in that sense, where I was kind of just throwing whatever at the wall, just kind of let the video make itself.
I wonder why you don't get a job, you broke bitch.
I always imagined the king to be, at least the way I interpret him, he's a bit of a lazy bones, in his old age, but he really does care. He cares about his family. He has a very unique way of showing it. He's very abrasive. He can be a bit bossy at times, but he's a king. Living in royalty will do that to you. I think the same can be said for Zelda to an extent. She at least kind of has a bit of an ego at times. Growing up a princess, I always imagined that she got used to a certain lifestyle, what she wants, she gets, and when that's challenged, sometimes she doesn't handle it too well. I've always just kind of had this big idea of like these people who grew up in royalty just kind of trying to adjust to live in life in a way that the average person would, going through the average person's struggles, and it's a lot to take in when you've lived your life in this big fancy castle.
I jerk off all day.
Nice.
I've just about had it
Don't
with
touch it, you
This
fat
is
ass.
unbelievable.
So for this scene, I really did sentence mix all of these arguments. If you listen carefully, they're all actually saying shit here.
You people have got to be the most retarded shits that I have ever met in my life. I can't
Oh, what a
get
problematic
one
word he just said.
Here. Hey, what? You should buy some pizza for us.
A lot of Koopas seem to make Zelda the kind of straight man, the only sane one out of all of them, and personally, I always thought the character of Guanum would be a better fit for that role, just kind of having to deal with all this, because he's from Korodai, he's not from Hyrule, or at least he didn't grow up in this kind of, a little more of a pampered environment, and so he knows what it's like to struggle, and, he really does like these guys, he really does see them as family, but they grew up with a very different lifestyle than what he had. I've always imagined that Korodai, growing up there wasn't the nicest. And so they're fundamentally very different people, but at the end of the day, they really do see each other as family.
We got rid of him.
Yeah, that old guy sure is boring.
I think now's a good time to mention that, like, these first few videos, I don't consider fully canon. There are some things that I did in these earlier videos that I wouldn't do nowadays. Such as having Link refer to Guanum as like that old guy as if like he doesn't really know who he is. Just take everything that happens in these earlier videos with a grain of salt.
Link?
What?
The castle is still on fire.
Fuck.
You may notice that it's a bit of a running gag in these videos for like just all these unfortunate things to happen to the castle. It gets destroyed over and over again. Spoiler alert for future videos if this is somehow your first exposure to them. I've always found the idea funny of like these big, almost sort of snooty royalty members just kind of always being knocked down a peg. This big fancy castle just constantly getting knocked down and blown up, and it's an unfortunate circumstance for them, but they always end up bouncing back.
No religions. I'm out games.
I was so proud of these sprites at the moment. Look at that very sloppy hand right there. Now for the video that's slowly ruining my life. 150k views on this garbage. Oh wow. Okay, no, that's a little cruel to call it garbage. At the time, I was very proud of this, seeing all the memes that existed of this scene beforehand. The way people kind of just combined these two sources is really funny to me. The whole Morshu meme with the Thanos beatbox. I thought it was so funny, but I didn't see anyone give a proper attempt at like doing the full thing. I've seen people sentence mix the beatbox before, and I really thought like I would be far from the first person to do this, because it seems like when you're in a community full of Koopas and editors, it seems like a very obvious step to kind of just throw together something like this. When you see like this big kind of viral meme going around, expand upon it. A lot of people do that. And for some reason, no one had done it with this, so this old bastard got around to doing that. This is not going to be an easy one to look back on. This completely overshadows everything I do, but hey, I'm grateful for it anyway. Let's get it. Yeah, looking back on this, some of the editing is a little lazy. I don't like the way he kind of just snapped back there for the little freeze frame, and as well as just kind of playing through the same two animations over and over. This is before I got really comfortable making these custom sprites, so as a result, there are some parts of this that definitely could have been a lot better, if I had approached them with my modern style of editing and making of custom sprites. But hey, this is the result that I put out, and I'm gonna have to live with that. Oh, I love the way his hand got cut off there. Looking back on this though, the sentence mixing isn't all that bad. I'm definitely still proud of that aspect, but I think I did a decent enough job of combining the original vocals with the sentence mixing here. Oh man, I really don't like that. It's kind of embarrassing. I didn't even properly animate the Korodai. They're not even in Korodai. What kind of hack made this? Oh, look at that. Look at that little... I'm kind of just going through the motions here. And there it is. There it is in all of its chroma keyed glory. I remember there was one person in the comments, shout out to you if you somehow hear this, that was very insistent that I should make a version of this video that's nothing but the RTX model. And I don't know what this person was expecting, that I would go back and remake the video using only this model. Would Morshu be the only character with the RTX kind of high quality model while everyone else is a sprite, or did he expect me to make RTX models of all of these silly little fellas in the background? Would have been quite the undertaking, I guess, especially for my skill set at the time. But shout out to you. Now we're moving on to the Hyrule Dating Videos 3, which is of course a continuation of the series made by Swish Films Inc. The dating videos were always some of my favorite things that had ever been done with CGI sources. I remember me in my childhood glory getting quite a little giggle from all of these videos, harder than pretty much any other poop I had ever seen. And the idea of like making these dating videos always seemed like a concept that could have gone a lot further than what had been done in just 2 videos, and so I naturally thought it would be a lot of fun to kind of take this idea that someone else put out and expand on it. So shout out to Swish Films Inc. for basically making this idea for me to steal 16,000 views that I leached off of Mr. Swish Films. Let's get it.
I haven't used these in about 12 years.
I thought it was so clever for putting that line in about like how he hadn't used these in over 12 years, basically trying to recontextualize the whole dating videos thing as like, yeah, the whole time it was these videos that Morshu was playing back on his computer. I thought it was real clever at the time. A lot of empty space here. So initially I was going off of the idea of doing other characters that weren't covered in Swish Films videos, but then I realized like there's not a lot to work with there, and it kind of put it into perspective why there was only ever 2 episodes of the original series. So I decided, like, what if, I were to give a shot to characters that had already gotten their own little slots in the original video, but just either have them tell new jokes or give it a new perspective with like the way I kind of handle these characters.
I shall rake your face with my knife and
It's definitely like me trying to recapture that feeling that Swish Films had, with all like the vulgarity and all the kind of raunchiness that came from these videos. I don't remember Swish Films ever doing the Mario Brothers in his, which is a bit of a surprise to me. I think the reference in this scene kind of flew over a bunch of people's heads in the comments, but I'm fine with that. I figured that would happen. I guess the same goes for I Am Mean. I was a little surprised to see he hadn't already gotten one of these entries.
I am not a pervert. You must be beautiful.
Once again, I'm kind of just running with the idea of like Guanam being one of the more sane people that live in this world. So I thought naturally if he were to do his little dating video, have him, kind of put himself on a pedestal as the guy that, I'm not like all these other weirdos. But I think truly deep down, Guanam, he's got a little bit of craziness to him. Maybe he's a little bit senile, or maybe he's just a little wacko after being exposed to so much toxic radiation for so long. I think my idea here was that he's like trying to keep that kind of facade up.
Link is a pervert. You're right.
Whereas Link is a little more open and a little more confident in the fact, like, yeah, he's weird.
I give anything for a gay princess on my pussy.
I always kind of got the vibe from this character. I don't know what it was about this character. Maybe it's the eyes, maybe it's the hair. Big fat lesbian, big fat gay. I certainly think that's a bit of a fun direction to take this character. Bit of a hopeless romantic. She's also floating in midair here. I just noticed. It's not quite sitting on anything. We also have a very ginormous Zelda here, drawn a bit differently than the way I would go on to draw her in future videos. I also kind of seem to pride myself on throwing in more references to Zelda games, other Zelda games in the franchise. I haven't seen a whole lot of Zelda CGI proofs to do that. most of them seem to be made by people whose only exposure to the Zelda franchise is the poops that they've seen of them and the CDI memes, which is totally fine. You know, I don't expect everyone to be a super grand expert on everything that they do. I understand that some people just find these sources fun and don't really stress about knowing the source material that much.
Shit! 1-800
Pussy. Yeah, you
Another classic little reference there for those who get it. Another thing that I really saw as a big opportunity with the retrieval of Pyramid Adventures. It was the perfect opportunity to give these characters that didn't quite exist back then their own little entry into this series. Another thing that was kind of just phased out over time was this end screen. I do it a little differently now. It's sort of an evolution of it, where I'm able to throw up my little end cards. I definitely prefer the one that I have now over this, because, like, I mean, look at all this ugliness right here. Would you engage with this end screen more than you already have? No, you wouldn't. Don't even lie to me.
What do you think? It's perfect. I think I'll take it. Oh shit.
I remember being really proud of, like, the composition of this scene, the way everything zooms out. But one thing I'm definitely not proud of is this ugly mess right here. Oh my goodness. It's definitely a step above what we have gotten to know for these past few videos, but oh my goodness, we were a long way from home on this design, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh shit.
As for Morshu, you know, I've always kind of thought Play Up that kind of greedy little shopkeeper. He's a little mischievous. He's a bit of a rascal. I think the original games were attempting to portray him as just kind of this mischievous little guy. You know, he's not necessarily evil or anything, but he's a little mischievous. He's a little greedy. He's a bit rotund. He's a little round, a bit money hungry. And so I thought might as well expand on that idea. That will become more clear with time as we come to get to know this character a little better. But consider that as a small little peek into who this character is. Now on to my flagship series here. Well, not quite my flagship series, more so what I do when I don't really feel quite in the mood to make another story-based episode and just want to do a little bit of chicanery. Now, right off the bat, I don't remember why I did the color correction on this wall back here. I think I was attempting to make it look like as if the lighting was a little different in the castle today. They're doing something a little special, a little different, and therefore the castle looks a little different. Now, once again, this is definitely a step in the right direction, or should I say the more modern direction? Who knows? Maybe my current work, I'll be looking back on that one day with the same amount of shame and disappointment that I do to this little bag of dicks right here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hyrule.
Oh, look at that hand. Look at that long snake she's got there. Just kind of peeking out. Kind of just... the way that thing just pops upward. Oh boy, how was I able to contort myself that way? Oh my goodness.
Today I am talking with the folks here in the Hyrule.
I'm only now noticing how much my style has changed since I haven't watched these in quite some time, if I'm being honest. It's almost comforting in a way to know how much things have changed and how I can look at my videos now and see something that I'm a little more satisfied with. But of course I realize that these videos needed to happen. They're a bit of a stepping stone to get to where I am now, so I do appreciate these, even if I don't consider them to be my best work at all.
We'll be answering a lot of your most burning questions about
Very
the life
stiff
of a
animation
YT
here, very
star.
stiff
Without
movements.
further ado, let's get on with it.
No one cares about your shitty poorly drawn OC.
I think this is the first, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first one to debut this more detailed background with all these windows and everything. It's kind of supposed to be an expansion on one of the backgrounds that already existed in the original game. Maybe one day I'll put out a bit of a map of how I imagine the castle to be laid out, because I do have a very specific idea. Like, I've always assumed this to be a very long entrance hall, and you got on the other side, like if you were to turn around, you'd see the entrance to all the various rooms, as well as the staircase that leads upstairs that you see in a different shot. But I suppose I'll have to lay that all out another day.
Let's get on with the fucking interview, bitch.
Now for this one, I kind of just used Google results. It's kind of like those Wired interviews. I figured at this time if I just asked for a bunch of questions from the commenters, I wouldn't get much, as well as maybe like people wouldn't understand the concept as well. I don't know if I'm assuming too little of the IQ of the people who watch me, but I feel like I got some sort of mileage out of some of these Google results.
Does Link love Zelda?
Yeah.
Does Zelda love Link?
No.
Does Link?
I think that's where I began to introduce this gag of kind of swooped up from the game as well as the TV series where Link is just kind of constantly going after Zelda, but she doesn't quite return the feeling. I've always felt that this iteration of Zelda wouldn't quite be into this version of Link. I always thought they'd work better, or at least for what I'm going for. I thought that they'd work better as just kind of good friends, best friends. I think this is around when I actually learned how to properly size up my sprites. It's still not quite perfect. I can see some bleeding here. Maybe that's just YouTube being itself, or this is definitely a step upward. I think it makes the image a lot more clear, and as well as it's just a lot more pleasing to the eye.
Really?
But as you can see, I didn't quite get it perfect the first time. One of these characters is clearly in a much higher resolution than the other. I wonder how many people tried to use this QR code. I don't know if it still works or how easy it even is to scan. But I don't know, go ahead, give it a try. I'm certainly not. I don't know what that leads to. Trying to give me some kind of virus or something.
Is Zelda a boy or a girl?
I don't know.
Who is
Someone was able to point out that was a bit of a reference to a certain Dragon Ball scene. I did indeed have that in mind while making that gag, and I'm surprised anyone saw through that.
I'm the king of Hyrule, and I don't have to listen to anyone.
Hey.
Oh,
I think this is a remnant from a bit of a scrapped idea I had where Mario was ultimately like the ruler of all of these people. He's just kind of chill. He's not quite as demanding as someone as the king might be. He's really just this chill little fella, but he really does have like ultimate authority. I don't know if I'll run with that idea, because I think my idea for Mario is to have him be a little more of an everyman. He's definitely a lot more of a average person than just about anyone else in this series. You could walk by him on the street and you wouldn't think much of him. You wouldn't think him to be anyone too special. But who knows? Maybe the idea can be reintroduced one day.
oh, you won't use that shit on me. I give you a lot.
Another thing that was kind of scrapped as time went on, I had the idea of this gag from Morshu being that like he moves differently to everyone else, whereas like everyone else just has like the sentence mixing, but with like whatever animation I apply to the character. But Morshu was supposed to have this gag where he's the only one that moves, whereas the point in the clip that the audio was taken from for the sentence mixing, he'd be like just snapping into all these different poses for whatever piece of dialogue he's saying. And maybe I will run with that gag occasionally now, but I think for what I'm going for with these videos, it's a lot more in line to have him just be animated like every other character. Although I do appreciate that this is a very fun gag.
You on my beatbox video. That's what I thought.
There's me trying to be self-aware only like 4 episodes in.
Zelda's girlfriend?
Oh, so
Link's
this
reaction
carried
video.
on. This certainly carried on. I didn't expect it to. This wasn't supposed to be anything more than a dumb little joke. Just kind of taking the piss out of Link. But, as things went on with the character I decided that Zelda would be in this series, I do think these two work well off of each other, and so I did kind of decide to carry the gag on. But sorry for any hearts I broke with that gag there. Once again, I didn't think it'd be anything more than a gag, but I really did like the idea after making that joke, so I kind of just ran with it. I think it's a fun idea to kind of just work off of and make all these fun little stories out of.
How did Link get herpes?
First off, that wasn't edited. Like, that really was the results on Google. For whatever reason, this search suggestion really did exist. Don't know why.
I was taking a shit in the public bathroom and then my penis touched the toilet water.
This is just me kind of trying to flex my sentence mixing skills. Around this time, I had a lot of ideas for gags where, like, this character will just do this long run-on sentence. And I think at the time I was thinking people were going to be watching this like, whoa, oh my goodness, listen to all those words that were strung together. Oh my goodness, that's so impressive. I'm going to subscribe right now. But Link is quite the talker. He loves to talk. He loves to talk to people. He'll kind of just voice whatever's going on in here, which isn't not a lot going on in here, but whatever's rattling around there, he'll be sure to let you know.
What is King Harkinian's favorite food?
Fried chicken.
no mac and cheese, no turkey with gravy, no cereal, no pizza,
Pizza, what
no
a pizza.
nugget,
Is canon
He
a
loves
pig?
everything.
why would you say that to me?
I still quite like this idea. Ganon really is just a bit of a softie. It's always been one of my favorite kind of character tropes of like this big gentle giant. This big giant scary looking dude, but in reality, he ain't all too intimidating. He's just a big old softie.
Is Zelda on Xbox?
Of course.
This would mark one of the only appearances of I Am Mean in my videos, as well as we have a bit of a landmark here. There it is, the birth of the Carrot Woman name. There it is. If anyone ever asks you why is that character referred to by that name, you can blame this little gag at 2 minutes and 30 seconds in to Hyrule Royalty Interviews #1. That's where that name originated, and I kind of just ran with it. You know, I have the idea that like this character is someone who just kind of appeared one day, and no one, including herself, really knows what her name is. So they kind of just ran with that one. It was essentially made up on the spot.
Now I must go steal money from some children.
I have nothing much to say about the scene other than it's a very fun interaction. It's definitely one of the better scenes of this video, looking back on it.
Easiest way to kick Link out of the castle because he broke your camera and forced you to summon I Am Mean to fix it.
No, obviously this isn't a real Google result here. I figured as the video went on, like the questions would get more and more ridiculous. It's not an idea that ended up really getting into the video, but I was glad to at least throw in like one of these really ridiculous and obviously fake search results here.
Cool.
How long is this? This is only like 4 minutes, so I guess that's good enough. You know, I generally try to shoot for like 5 minutes and above. That's at least a standard I try to hold myself to, but really what's most important to me is just that I'm satisfied with whatever video I end up making, no matter how long it is.
Hey, come back. I'm not gonna hurt you.
I'm not too sure where the idea of Link loving cheese came from, but I guess I just thought the concept was really funny to have him. You know, he has some very like childlike kind of tendencies. And when I imagine like a kid, like oh, what's something like weird that a kid might eat? And I remember being a kid eating Kraft singles out of the refrigerator.
I'm just hungry. I want.
I really like that faceplant.
Easy.
Another shot that I was really proud of at the time, you know, the kind of perspectives of her looking down on Link with the shading and everything. I was very proud of this in the moment.
No, it is a statement. You don't understand it.
I really liked my arguments around this time. I also tried to like tell myself that I would give this one like a very kind of cartoony ending, like how would I imagine a Nickelodeon show from my childhood wrapping up this story? It's a little closer to the outros I would do in the future. No, I'll be honest, I forgot about some of these shorts, but I might as well do them. They won't take up too much time. I figured I could focus more on this little bastard in some of these short form videos, because at this time I still wasn't sure what like the consensus was on introducing original characters. There's also a bit of animation practice here with her kind of running around. It's definitely very goofy looking animation looking back on it, but I do like it a lot more than whatever was going on at the beginning of the interviews video. That really was me in FL Studio. Alright, so now on to what I think is the most popular story video, like non-YTPMV, I think it's the most popular one. Yeah, this would be it. 21,000. You know, unlike with the Morshu beatbox video, I'm quite glad this is the most popular out of all of the story ones that I've done. It's a little more in line with like what I'm going for with these videos, so I guess like maybe Castle Calamity and Beyond I would consider to just be 100% canon. This is the version of the characters that we're kind of running with. Another shot I was really proud of at the time, and still kind of am, I like it. I had taken this background, this old sunset background, from the Sprite as resource. I can't remember what game it's from, but I thought it made a good backdrop for this shot here.
It sure is a beautiful.
I like to think he was sleeping on the floor here.
And myself as Bobby boxing color. I got rich.
I think at this point it was already like one of my most successful videos, and so I thought, might as well kind of run with it if this is what people want to see from me. Maybe do another video with like Morshu as the starring character. I know at this time he was a bit of a meme, so I guess maybe I was kind of trying to capitalize on that. I was definitely also getting a little more into my comfort zone with some of these custom sprites. It's mostly minor edits like his eyes here or like the kind of neutral expression he has while talking, all completely custom made. Just kind of easing my way into doing these sprites rather than going full force at it, unsuccessfully so like some of with my earlier ones that don't quite look as good.
I might have gotten drunk and
I think this might be one of the first moments too where I just kind of have these characters interacting with each other as themselves. I think a big part of my mindset while going into these videos is like trying to kind of recapture the feeling that I've got watching YouTube when I was younger, as well as putting in a lot of the kind of gags and stuff I like to see in cartoons growing up.
Yeah, whatever, Duke Onklet.
Now, one aspect of CDI poops that I kind of just ran with here, despite me giving different interpretations to these characters, I think Duke Gauntlet has always been a bit of a punching bag character for most that do CDI poops, and I do have to agree that is one of my favorite interpretations of the character. I know I'm saying this quite a bit, but this is another shot that I was very proud of. My standards were quite low at the time, just knowing what I could throw together. We kind of have the perspective of the king looking upward with Guanum laying on the carpet. Very satisfied with this one. One thing I definitely would have done different nowadays, not quite a fan of how big Link is in this shot. He's like massive compared to Zelda.
But what if we get caught? We're going to get arrested and go to jail, just like Impa.
That idea kind of originated from me not really being a big fan of the Impa character. I never found much that I could get out of this character. I didn't quite find her to be a character that had as much comedic potential as all these other little wacky characters. Impa was always just kind of like a generic old lady. I was never a fan of the character, and so I decided like just throw in a reason as to why she's not in these videos. And I had the idea before I started on this video that like she had just been thrown in prison for a reason that's just never elaborated on.
Wow, it sure is cool around there.
As his little catchphrase.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
I think that was a good showcase of like both of them being a little bit naive, or having a little bit of that like childishness to them despite both being fully grown adults. Another thing is these two. I've always imagined these two to be pretty good friends. I think that might have been a concept lifted from Mecha Ouiji's Link and the Hyrule Gang series. I think I remember them being a bit of a duo in those videos. If that's true, shout out to Mocha Moon Pie. I completely stole your idea here.
Of course I can fix your stuff. Thanks.
So this Ushram character I always imagined to run a business over in Gamelon. And he's very bothered by the fact that he's not as successful as Morshu. So, of course, with the opportunity he finds here, he takes the first chance he gets to just kind of take the opportunity to destroy Morshu.
Did I just see through time?
I think the idea here was not so much that she was blessed with any kind of ability, but rather her getting hit with the hammer kind of awakened some sort of magical ability that she always had inside her, and she just didn't know until this moment. And it has been the case ever since this video that every time she utters the word time, her hands glow blue, and as it is, I don't think she quite understands how to use that power. The only time that's ever been used, it's been by complete accident. But it's definitely something I'll elaborate more on in the future, so keep an eye out for that. Another gag I'm a big fan of is Ushram just kind of bringing the desk with him everywhere he goes. I think I was also inspired by like the SpongeBob kind of close-up gags that they do with certain things becoming very detailed out of nowhere. I definitely like to do more gags like this.
God bless the taxpayers.
I think right there, that line was originally just going to be lifted from the game, and he was just going to go, that ought to do it. But I found the line of like, God bless the taxpayers, because I think I was still kind of running with the idea that Mario was the leader of this kind of universe. That's kind of the idea I had at that time. Again, just very glad to have his party.
Now we get the castle back.
He couldn't care less. Once again, with that kind of like childlike naiveness.
Just let them have this one.
I think this would be one of the first moments that I have Guanum just kind of putting his feelings of annoyance aside and showing that he really does care about these people that he's grown up with, essentially, is definitely one of the first episodes that I consider to be like in the more modern style. And I think I had my ideas for these characters a little more fleshed out in my head. I'm pretty confident in calling this like the first real episode of this series. And from there, we can move on to the new computer curse. Once again, another episode I'm quite proud of. I thought this gag was very, very clever with having them flipping through the channels here and having one of the things on the TV be the same TV display from the short I had made previously that had the same gag of someone flipping through channels.
It's everyone's favorite OC in the house.
Definitely a little more in line with like the way I animate and use this character now, though I don't know what's going on with those eyes. It's just me trying to be a little more self-aware here. Still quite insecure about like adding new characters into this whole pre-existing franchise. So essentially that's me trying to go, hey, you know, I'm self-aware, this is everyone's favorite little OC. And this was also supposed to be a kind of continuation of the short, you know, she really did steal this computer in a separate video. I don't think I've quite seen anyone point that, or maybe a few people did point that out and I just don't remember too well right now.
Wow, that's a new computer.
Another thing is this picture back here. It's a gag that doesn't pop up all too often, but it's carried from some edits that I used to do way back in the day, featuring a similar gag where there's like always a photograph in the background, and between shots it'll always change to something random and wacky. Basically just whatever funny pictures I have on my computer.
It's gonna take a buttload of time.
Nonsense.
Carrying on with that kind of little setup from the past video, I think this would also be the first time I've really properly used this room, which is a completely original design that I made for like, I always imagined that everyone living in the castle kind of just sleeps in the same room, except for the king himself. He kind of just keeps his own room while everyone else is cramped in this kind of crappy little bedroom they got here. You know, they got beds for all four of them, including Guanum over here, though I like to imagine Guan doesn't use that bed too often. He kind of just sleeps back in his home in Korodai.
Good night, Zelda.
Shit.
I don't know when he had the time to tie them down to those beds, or why he would even consider doing so. I guess he just really wanted to get to that computer before anyone else. And I believe this would be one of the first poops that I primarily use After Effects for. Usually before this it'd be mainly Vegas with like a touch of After Effects, but I think this is the first one where I just mostly use After Effects. It's when I got comfortable with it, I guess.
I can't find the spaghetti, I'm afraid.
Hey, King.
Another reference I don't think I've seen anyone point out with the spaghetti line there.
Perhaps I can find
Spaghetti.
in the printed word.
I think I should probably also mention this little melody swap here. I made it myself in FL Studio. You know what it is. You know what I changed the melody to there. I don't need to tell you. Another thing I haven't seen many people point out, the fact that the Xbox is still laying there from the previous video, the previous royalty interviews, I should say, with the question that someone asked being, is Zelda on Xbox? And like I had Zelda sitting on a real Xbox that's just in the middle of the hallway. I don't think I've seen anyone point this out, but I thought I was real clever with this one.
This.
This gag was kind of lifted also from the Link of the Hyrule Gang series. I threw in a small cameo with Mocha Moon Pie's character here because there really is just kind of a lifted gag, and so I figured might as well pay my dues in some way for blatantly stealing this gag with impure intentions, just mooching off of someone else's talent, because that's what I like to do.
Oh boy, I got a new computer.
So this, of course, is my friend Isaiah's Creations, a very talented individual doing the voice of the computer Link here. I had always thought he kind of sounded like the voice from the original New Computer video, and so I thought this would be a kind of way to acknowledge that with a proper video, as well as playing tribute to the very iconic video that came to be.
You sound like you don't have a strong and you use your cheap dollars for like instead of sentence mixing.
Another
Don't
kind
worry
of
about it,
meta
King.
joke there.
I'm sure you'll feel
How
better
people back
after
in the
a
day
nice
who did
and
not a
my
sentence would
secret.
just kind of use their own voice, as well as the king kind of jumping out of the 4:3 aspect ratio and the low quality rendering of old YouTube.
You must
I
be
think my thoughts for this sequence was
I don't see
I think it was originally going to be a lot longer,
This guy.
of the king just kind of going around to different people, asking them to help, and them giving fruitless attempts.
Why the
A lot of other poops of this source kind of seem to combine like all the YouTube poop universe into one, big kind of crossover. You got Michael Rosen existing in the same universe as the king. That's never been my approach to this, but I did think it would be funny for this one gag for like the king to just kind of travel to wherever it is that he met up with Michael here, just for the one gag, and to throw in a bit of a mini collab with one of my good friends. I really like the way that part came out. That little
Try to set up a new computer.
Yeah.
Link,
I really like that. Sorry about that. Sorry about fixating on that.
Link is going to die.
Another thing I found pretty funny is the delivery, like Link is gonna die, such devastating news, but also while just holding his arms very, almost kind of as if he's celebrating. Like he almost seems happy about this fact with the way he just throws his arms in the air.
Neopets on my computer?
Unless I do this.
Hey, time for
Bit of trolling from Guanum there. He can be a little mischievous at times too. Even if he is more of a straight man than anyone else, he gets up to a fair amount of trolling himself. Now here, I thought it would be funny if like the only custom sprite I really work with while he's in this kind of cursed state is done in the style of like an old shitty MS Paint edit that people would do back in the day. And it's only on screen for like 2 frames, but I do think I remember seeing people point this one out.
my bed for all this time.
Wait, what?
Now, in this situation, I imagine, just quite accidentally, she activated her magic hands by saying the word time, and then using her magic hands to punch Link is what cured the curse. It was by complete accident on Zelda's part. She really just wanted to give Link a little bit of a deck in the face there.
Link is back.
Yeah. Did I go somewhere? With magic.
Link kind of blanked out for that whole process.
Now that this is all over, let's use the computer.
And of course, no one seems to mind that Carrot back there is still tied to her bed.
I did it with my feet.
That makes sense to me.
She's a very multi-talented person.
Use the computer. What's the password?
And of course, this is just kind of playing out the events of the original video here.
No.
Pretty much just point for point. I even put in like some of the errors that the original contained.
Password.
Why won't it be password?
True that. Does it?
The other thing I didn't see many people point out is when he says password, Guanum kind of retorts with, "Oh, why would it be password?" And so they kind of just move on, but that was the correct password in the original video. Had they actually used the password suggestion, the problems would have been over, but alas, they are cursed to stay in this infinite loop. So from here, we can switch gears a little bit and head into Hyrule Royalty Interviews number 2. Now for the intro to this one, I figured I could go a little more meta with it. Right? I was gonna have like this big intro where she introduces the concept again, but I figured like, I had put out the community post already. Most people knew this is coming. They know where it is. If you're watching this, you already know what Hyrule Royalty Interviews is. And if you don't already know what it is, you can piece it together for yourself quite quickly. So there was no need for all that nonsense. I kind of just did a quick little gag as the intro here.
Got some funny interviews for you. Let's go.
What's Ganon's favorite flavor of pie?
I don't know. I will now proceed to
Ganon is very much a people pleaser.
Why isn't Paul?
I think this question kind of bothered me because I put out the community post saying like, oh, ask a question to any of these characters. And the only one that wasn't pictured was Impa, but this is the first comment I got. It was a question about Impa. You let me down, Lakota Course.
What is Carrot Woman's real name?
I found this interesting because when I opened up the comment submissions, I started getting questions about the OC, and that kind of just ended my insecurity with using this character. I figured people really did like the character.
I'm gonna need Ashley's 10,000 rubies up front.
Why are you so
Bush is a
awesome?
person that's fueled only by greed. He's only in this for the money.
Quantum, why do we need the vision to find your house?
My house is made of invisible things.
So here's his house. He really does live out in
It's not a
Korodai.
fart.
Nerf this.
It's quite the depraved joke here. If you get this, I
Crispy plum.
bless your
Why
soul.
don't you guys leave?
That's one thing that did carry on from the first episode. He goes rabid upon hearing the pizza term.
Does-
You've been sitting there for 28 years.
Another kind of classic little reference there. Bowser, despite being the main enemy of Hotel Mario, he only has that one appearance in that one cutscene at the beginning. That little laugh is like the most he gets. He doesn't appear again. That's the only sprite he has. So I kind of just made a gag off of that. Like, he's just always been standing there, and that's all he'll ever really do. I will try to include him in the videos regardless, but he's quite the limited character.
I'm proud to call her my daughter. If you lay a single finger on her, I'm going to execute you in the most painful way possible.
I think I was still kind of working with Vegas in this one with the way he kind of bounced around there. I think that was all Vegas panning. But don't got much to say about this part other than this is really just King Arcadian laying out like his raw feelings and emotions towards everyone in the castle.
Toast is such a cheap dinner. Why would you eat a piece of bread as a meal? That's peasant food.
If you eat toast, fuck you. Honestly, why would anyone want to eat that?
Quantum, just what does squabalamine?
I don't know. I said that in the heat of the moment. Let me look it up on Wikipedia. Ah,
You know, I wrote that gag after reading the page on Guanum on Harkopedia. It had some sort of goofy translation for what squatala means. I think it meant to, like, shit your pants or something. I might be completely off there, but Harkopedia no longer exists, so this joke is now invalid, and it is lost to time. If anyone has an archive of that website, feel free to let me know.
Ganon, why do you constantly invade islands left and right all the time?
I thought it would be funny.
Yukon-Glet, why do you betray people a lot?
Now, I don't know if that's the logic I'm going to run with in the series, but I do think it would be a funny concept for, like, he was never evil. He just kind of invaded the island because he thought it would be funny. He was just kind of bored.
Jesus, was this written by retarded kids?
It's a real line from Mark Grau, the voice of Hotel Mario. Getting a little too comfortable insulting my loyal fans here. Quite the mean person I am. I think there's someone in the comments that's, like, very insistent on asking this question. Is it like as if to imply that, like, oh, the other Zeldas are so much better? I think the question pops up again in another episode, and she has a kind of similar answer, but I guess we'll get there when we get there.
She's a better fighter than I am. It's moments like this that remind me to keep my ego in control.
That's another moment in which, whenever there's, like, characters talking over each other, I really do just kind of, like, keep the sentence mixing going, regardless of, like, it fading it completely into the background. I'm always gonna, like, fill those up with dialogue regardless.
I just wish people in Camelot would kindly stop doing illegal shit.
Fari,
My idea for Cavendish, I actually do want to get him a little more involved, and I have. In the Princess's Epic Adventure, he has a little more of a role than he was ever meant to have. I do imagine him to be one of the more serious characters. He doesn't got a whole lot of jokes. He's the kind of guy that will, like, drag you back down to reality when you're kind of goofing off and you're in lava land over there.
how did you get the job of working for the king in the first place?
I made the king and I still.
I think Fari is not his actual name. It's Lord Kiro. But there was, like, a poop back in the day that they just referred to him as Fari because it's like an easy sentence mix with Quantum, and that just kind of became his name for a while. And I guess I'm glad to see, like, there are people who still remember that incarnation of the character.
How do you even feel about people calling you the Squabadahlan guy?
I know back in the day, that was the kind of name people ran with when they didn't know the names of these characters very well.
I talk about
I remember being very proud of this little puppet animation here with Zelda comforting the king as she, like, sitting in her bed. I definitely think I could do better nowadays, but at the time I was very proud of how this one turned out. I got had to get kind of creative with some of the editing here, and it's not perfect, but I still like how this looks.
So did I, blaster. That's what you
He
get
just
for
shot
pushing
a
me to
dumbbell at her.
dance of part one.
Who has the best mixtape?
I do pitch my one and he would become and happy slip to the ski shop with my sweetheart and he got my handy six.
Really, the rest of this is just him rapping. Something about the sprite here doesn't look too right to me. I don't know, maybe I still wasn't too accustomed to making all these, like, grand scale custom sprites. I kind of got the hang of that over time, but, yeah, I think this one could have been better. As for Guanum, you know, I do imagine him to be one of the more serious characters, but he's got that level of craziness to him that just comes out at times. You know, he's not willing to admit it that he has this side to him, but it'll peek out at times regardless, and, you know, everyone just kind of has to deal with that sometimes. Then we got another short. This one will be quick. I think I just made this one because I hadn't gotten a video out that month, and I do like to try and post on a monthly basis, but, I couldn't get anything done in time, so I kind of just threw this quick little shit post together. I think that was actually my second attempt at doing that little death pose from the other video when she was laying on the floor at the end there. It's a much smaller scale sprite, and it still looks a little wonky around here, but I'm overall more satisfied with this one.
I haven't uploaded to my YouTube in over a goddamn month. I need to get some shit.
Being very transparent here. Really kind of a nothing video looking back at it. Quick little crazy at it, but not much more than that. I guess I had a real kick out of the royalty interviews around this time because I did one episode after the other. I think it's because the girls' night video was kind of taking a while to get out, as well as like I was kind of hitting a creative roadblock with it. So I kind of just did another episode of the interviews series. You know, that's something that I can literally just make up as I go, where I can really just bounce off of all the questions and get my gags from there, as opposed to a story video, which I gotta constantly be coming up with. It's a lot less creatively draining and more just gag after gag in this episode, so it was a lot easier to get this out before the girls' night video. There she is in all her glory. Now, I believe I did this just because I kind of wanted to switch up the scenery a little bit. I figured it would get a little boring if, like, I like to imagine that Morsu and the King actually do have some history. They've known each other for quite some time, definitely before the time period as to when my video started, far before the events of Guanum's Freya and all that. But I'll elaborate on that some other time.
The first meet. Also, what's your favorite gamer?
Did you not watch the first goddamn video?
That's something that's become a bit of an issue as the series went on. There's gonna be a lot of people asking repeat questions that have already been asked, and, you know, I can't quite blame them. I don't expect everyone to watch every video in the series before asking a question. So I just kind of passed it off with a little snide remark here.
Why are there so many feet?
They're easy to use inches.
I don't understand that question. I think it was on the royalty interviews episode before this that there wasn't that many.
What characters are canon? Do you include other animation magic projects?
They are all canon. All of them.
As long as it's an animation magic project, or at least anything closely related.
Any relation to the Guanum Hints Twitter account?
I'm actually so glad someone asked something about the Guanum Hints Twitter account. It's such a good account.
Velvet, why don't you wear shoes or socks?
That's a good question. I think it's worth mentioning that the purple shirt in this one is just what she wears to sleep. And, you know, being as she just woken up before starting this one, she's just gonna be in her kind of sleeping clothes for the whole thing.
Hungry girl, why are you a lesbian?
That's such a question to ask. Just someone, like, imagine going up to someone and ask them, hey, why are you a lesbian? That's such a wild question.
You do know SMLing SMG4?
Yes, I know. Super mega laxatives and shit I got out for.
You know, I've gotten quite the amount of more SMG4 than SML related comments. I'm not sure why. I don't know if I just attract a similar kind of audience, but I've gotten quite a bit of people asking questions related to this. I haven't watched it since, like, I want to say 2014, 15, so around that time.
Which one do you choose as your lover, Carrot Woman or Link?
I choose the more masculine one.
Fuck.
I like to imagine this iteration of Link. It's a bit of a running gag that he's not the most masculine dude, you know.
Because fuck that guy. The first one used Google. Nobody Googles shit about that guy.
I had a lot of fun with this sequence right here, if you couldn't tell. Another running gag that you can expect in my videos. This is the greatest thumbnail I've ever seen. But yeah, the first one, I really did want to have Guanum in there more, but being as I was using Google and not questions submitted from commenters, there's not a lot about Guanum online that I could go off of, especially with Google search results. So unfortunately, he couldn't be featured in that one very much.
The chances of me to like you are impossible.
She really likes her
Mario
puns
would
in
be
this
classified
episode.
by Yukon Club. Do you watch Winx Club?
It was the most random question she ever heard.
Exactly. Like, I really, that might be the most random question I've ever gotten. I've gotten some quite strange and random questions before, but that might be the most like random and weird question I've ever received. Shout out to you, though.
Would you marry Link if it meant saving Carrot Woman's life?
She's lived a good life.
No, I haven't. No, I like to think in this particular instance, she's just kind of dicking around with Link. You know, just kind of, she knows he's off screen somewhere around here, and she just knows how to push his buttons, really.
Do you love Daisy?
Who is that?
Zelda,
Yeah,
did
who
you
is that?
What is your best preferred kind of dinner
Did you not watch the first goddamn video?
and breakfast?
I wonder how many more times I'm going to get the question of what Harkinian's favorite dinner is. However that episodes I go on to make of this series, I'm sure like the more episodes there are, the less that people will have seen these original few and think they're being like super original by asking what Harkinian's favorite dinner is. It's bound to happen, mark my words.
I'm a warrior. I got no time for nonsense.
Question
So my
48,
idea
what are your
with
thoughts on
the
the
character of
community?
Lupe, they're just a stone cold warrior from the very beginning. Like all they've ever cared about is being Ganon's minion and like, you know, just following his orders, being the best minion that they can possibly be. But the thing is, they have a bit of a soft side that just manages to peek out at times, especially with Lupe still having some of the dog instincts that come with being a canine. And, you know, they're trying their best to be intimidating. They'd like you to think that they're a stone cold killer with no emotions, but they peek out sometimes, and they're very insecure about that.
Zelda, why are you always
Don't ask questions you aren't prepared to handle.
Yeah, she already answered that one. I don't know why you'd ask that when that question was already answered. I will say, in the ending scene to the Faces of Evil, I believe that's the only full body shot of Zelda that we actually see in the video game, and she's completely barefoot there. So that's just the version of her design that I kind of ran with, and that's the explanation I'll give you anyway.
Carbano, how is the bakery business going?
It's awful. I make too much money.
Carrot Woman,
I like to think that Harbano is kind of the opposite of Morshua, whereas he has a successful business that makes him a ton of money, but he's a nice guy. He's not real greedy. If you asked him to lend you some money, he would in a heartbeat. He really does care about others, more than making money.
are you a Hyrule native or from somewhere else?
Good question. I don't know. I just showed up one
You won't
day.
get a genuine answer to that for quite some
48
time.
years old Carrot Woman, do you have a crush on anyone?
How are you even gonna ask her? It should be pretty goddamn obvious if you see more than like one of my videos.
Gee, the tourists going around here.
I've always loved doing gags like that, where like unnecessary sentence mixing. Essentially, you have Harkinian speaking Link's line, and like in all reality, there was no reason to have the king say this line because Link is in this scene and he could have just as easily said this line. But I think it's funny to kind of subvert the expectation there and have the king say it instead. Therefore, a little more unnecessary work on my end, but I think it makes for a funny gag. That was just me kind of scrambling to end the video. I think I realized that this one had gone on for quite some time, and so I just wanted to end it already to get the video out. Yeah, I will admit that was a very rushed ending, but I think it was a funny gag regardless. Okay, now moving on to Girls' Night. Definitely one of my favorites that I remember working on. I had a lot of fun, especially with the sentence mixing here at the beginning. This is when I really started to get confident in my ability to do sentence mixing. Try to have these like run-on sentences or whatever. And I'm also coming to realize how many of these episodes just kind of start with a slow zoom in on the castle. Kind of lazy on my part, but I guess it gets the message across.
There's no time for books in Leicester.
Lucky shot.
I definitely intend to have more of these kind of scenes with just, you know, the cast just messing around, being a family.
I'm here.
This is definitely me attempting to establish more of these background characters that were implied to have more history with these characters.
Okay.
I really like the way a little eyebrow raise kind of turned out.
You look nice today. Thanks. You too.
Okay, let's get going.
Where we
Yeah, I think Zelda is someone who didn't grow up getting a lot of compliments. You know, despite having a bit of an ego, like being from royalty and everything, she was never truly confident in herself, and so it's not very often that she gets people telling her stuff like that. So to hear it from someone that's, you know, not Link, that's not like that is currently a bit of a stranger to her, it kind of resonates with her. And you know, maybe she does have a little bit of a crush in this moment, but I think more than anything, this is just kind of like the pressure of the situation, you know, introducing herself into a new group of people and wanting to make the right impression. That's kind of the reason that she's getting so worked up over like a simple compliment.
was just hoping we were going to do something more than sitting in the
I like to
chair.
imagine this is just what
Sitting in the
Alma
library.
finds fun.
What?
You've got to be a nasty bitch to be in the library without shoes on.
It wasn't my idea.
Yeah, Zelda is the type of person that'll just kind of go anywhere barefoot.
Was she out there this whole time?
And along with that, Alma is definitely the type of person to drive a Tesla. I don't know, something about her. It just gives me that vibe, you know what I mean? There's definitely a bit of a play on the classic The King Has a New Car, but you know, her equivalent would be just this live-action photo of a white Tesla. I think in stark contrast to Zelda, Alma is someone who I imagine didn't grow up in royalty. She grew up around royalty, you know, she definitely knows Zelda and the king, but despite not growing up in the best of situations, she is full of confidence, like real genuine confidence, like down to the point of narcissism. She's definitely someone that's insecure, but only in the fashion that she's built up this high and mighty image of herself. As soon as that kind of ego she's built up is threatened in any kind of way, she'll immediately try to shoot anything down that challenges her own perception. And you know, I really did think it through when I put this little group of characters together. I imagine they all represent different levels of people who grew up in situations in stark contrast with some similarities. You know, in the case of Princess Toadstool, she's someone who did grow up in royalty, but she's also stayed very humble. I don't think I've showed it yet, but she does live in an average little house with Mario. She's very humbly married to a plumber from Brooklyn because that's who she loves. She doesn't feel the need to like marry anyone too high status, and the house that they live in is modest, despite Toadstool coming from royalty. Essentially, I imagine all three of these characters to be on a bit of a spectrum with each other, and they all have a lot in common and a lot contrasting from each other. I definitely plan to have them interact more, because I do think it's an interesting dynamic to work off of. But as of right now, this is really just the setup for whatever's to become of these characters. No, I think I chose the song She-Wolf by Shakira here because in this situation, I do imagine that Alma has more sinister intentions than she's letting on. Her intentions with this night was never just to have like a day out, as she says, but rather to kind of like step her way back into this high-class level of living. You know, therefore, in a way, she is the she-wolf. She's just kind of hiding out and waiting for a moment to strike. At least that was my thought process behind it. I also just imagined it would be fun to edit together a little music video section. So yeah, Harkinian and Alma do have some history together, and it's something Alma just can't really let go of, the fact that it was a different period in both of their lives.
I just want to say I had to come turn with you. Thanks.
Once again, the music choice was deliberate here. It's the instrumental to Good Little Girl from Adventure Time. You know, in this moment, it's kind of the two of them realizing that, you know, despite how bad the night went, neither of them had any sinister intentions, unlike Alma. And I think I've seen a lot of people try to read into this to be deeper than it really is. a lot of people seem to think that this is like the two of them in a relationship or whatever. I don't see it that way at all. I just see it as a good friendship forming from this night, kind of picking up the ashes of the disastrous night and just spending some genuine time together. She invited her in just to read a book together. As they get to know each other, become better friends, and they've become people that they can trust. Despite kind of being opposites in a way, I've always characterized Zelda as a lot more tomboyish. She likes to fight, she likes to go on adventures. She's rather goofy. That's most of the reason why she gets along with Link so well, because despite the fact that she doesn't reciprocate his feelings, she can relate to him on the level that they're both fun-loving adventurers who love going out and taking risks, whereas Princess Toadstool is someone who is a lot more proper and princess-like. She keeps her pink, fluffy dress on at all times. She's very proper. She's very respectful. Whereas someone like Zelda's a little more of an oddball. She just wears her little miniskirt. Despite being princess, she doesn't feel the need to go around in her dress. She walks around barefoot, while Toadstool walks around in her high heels everywhere. They're very different people, but they're willing to overcome that. Interviews number 4. I think this is the longest episode I've ever done. We're just gonna hop right into it. Nothing much to say about this one. I think this intro was just me realizing that I never really wrapped up to the destroyed castle subplot from the other episode. And so I just try to give it like a quick little resolution before we jump right into the episode. Again, with the switch up of location that they're in, it's the same place, but it's nighttime now.
Wow, I look pretty in this game.
Why are there only
Yeah, that eagle popping out again.
I was just trying to get them unstuck. Good thing no one can hear this embarrassing confession.
Luigi.
The thing about Link is, like, he'll be embarrassed in that moment, but like, if you asked him if he was okay with you releasing that footage, he'd be totally fine with it. Link is someone who doesn't have a whole lot of shame in like what he is. I think he's aware that he's a bit of an oddball, but he doesn't mind that.
Try to kiss Zelda.
How about a kiss?
No.
Consent is important.
Blame Link for trying.
Those are the actual credits from the CDI games. This is another question I don't quite understand. It seems like a very random question to ask. They asked if Carrot Woman could do the Konami code in real life. Oh, here it is.
Do it.
Yeah, it's in your contract.
They're all very comfortable with each other, as you can tell. They've been living it for quite some time. That's an AI-generated version of the character. I think I fed my art to Dolly, and that's the result that it gave me. It looks like a Simpsons character almost.
That's not a question, therefore it is invalid.
There's been a lot of these that aren't actually questions. Not even this one's a question, it's just more of a request.
Say lots of spaghetti 20 times.
Just watch YouTube poop from 2010 and I'm sure he would.
It's more a gag about how a lot of pooks from the early days kind of just thought spamming the same quote over and over with maybe like an effect on it is golden humor.
I really ran out of questions.
Very hesitant on confessing that in front of the maid.
So I guess you guys found out about that video exposing Impulse criminal escapade.
Not quite sure what you meant by that, Mocha Moon Pie. If that is a pre-existing thing, I actually had no idea about it unless you made it up for this comment just to intrigue me, in which case, well played.
What? There's a video. Can you link it
Exactly.
to me and...
Ever considered giving all your money to charity? And by charity, I mean Morshu.
That's a good idea. You're
Again, with Harvano being just a nicer version of Morshu, if you asked him for money, he'd give it to you, and that includes a greedy bastard like Morshu. He'd, without hesitation, hand it over if you asked.
MLP Fine, the creator of fine products such as Carrot Woman and Feet.
I don't know how to tell you this, Mocha, but I think they existed before my videos. My videos certainly helped perpetrate them, but I reckon they were invented billions of years before my videos existed.
Have fun in hell. How should I accidentally created myself there too?
I think this is around the time that I became a little more comfortable with, like, not only having this OC take up a lot of screen time, but also involving friends' OCs. This is Mocha's OC over here. Very well designed, might I say. I really like the way they went about it. I've always had a lot of fun just, like, putting Friends characters in my videos, and that's definitely something I'm going to continue doing.
Zelda, what happened to your mother, and where is she now?
She's dead.
To CGI Link.
Dead serious
Have you
with
ever
that.
crushed in question for carrot woman, you look like Garfield because your skin color.
Really not much of a question. It's
I have
terrifying,
a
ain't it?
Hey,
question.
wait a second. Oh, is this a trap?
Zelda,
I didn't know I
are you
Hate
down with
Everything
being
parody
different
still
all the time?
existed.
I sure am. In fact, it keeps me on my toes.
King Harkonnen, what is your
She was
family
very
name?
fine with dying on that hill right there. Got shot right in the face, but couldn't be happier.
Zelda and carrot woman have dicks?
We sure do.
They do not.
Zelda and carrot girl, you ever smoke weed and be gay with the hungry lesbian?
I'm sorry to you, Floor 9, for never getting your
Does
question
carrot lady
answered.
woman have big boobs omnibus?
What are you, blind or some shit?
Question 2 Zelda,
Clearly.
since you're barefoot, how can you use your feet to do stuff?
I really don't know what he meant by that question. I guess walking would be something she could do.
To explain the technology of the smart sword, how does it know who's friendly or not, and how does it force them to talk?
It was made by magic guy. I can't remember.
I wonder if that will ever be elaborated
Mario,
on.
So cool, Colin G. I gotta ask, how was the filming for the cutscenes in Mario? Each is typing. You looked so natural and was a great performance. Smiley face.
A lot of the questions that the Mario Bros get kind of just asks about like different iterations of the character. I do not consider them to be the same person at all, but I still constantly get questions like that.
What does everyone think of King Harkonnen and his ruling? And what is the primary tax policy of Hyrule?
Hell, I know.
He really doesn't take the
Questions to
occupation
carrot
too
woman.
seriously.
You know why Zelda doesn't wear any shoes, but why don't you wear any shoes?
I like to think it's just something they bond over. Yeah, I make fun of some of these questions for being kind of weird, but in reality, you are free to ask whatever you want.
So many of these questions about feet.
Yeah, there's a strange amount of those in this episode in particular. You know, I do like to think in that moment they were kind of just setting him up. They're just buttering him up a little bit. I really do like kind of messing around with the whole cast in one setting, or like just have them all come together for one common goal. It really does make them feel like one big. It sounds corny to say it like this, but they really are like one big family at the end of the day. And you know, when I look at this screenshot, I can only really think of that meme that's like, bro thinks he's on the team. Yeah, one of these characters clearly doesn't fit in here. Kind of funny. Alright, now we're moving on to Hitch in the Works. I think I took the title of this episode from an episode of the Legend of Zelda Geek cartoon. I think the title on this one was a bit of a last-minute decision. I think a lot of people kind of get the impression that, like, Ganon is supposed to be a villain, or like he's trying to commit these, like, nefarious acts. You know, whenever I do the royalty interviews episode, I get at least a few questions that are like, oh, why are they letting Ganon stick around? Or why have they just killed him yet? And it's like, I've said before, he's really not the same version of the character that you see in the games. There's some things I keep consistent when it comes to carrying them over from the video game, but this isn't one of them. They're very close. They're very good friends. They don't mind snuggling up on the floor after a long night of playing Smash Bros. It's a completely platonic little snuggle on the floor there. You know, regardless of being the king of Hyrule, he doesn't see his job as like anything more than just being like a customer service representative or like HR. He just comes home ranting about like, oh, I had to deal with, you know, such and such today. It's such a pain, as if it were a regular retail job when in fact he is the ruler of Hyrule. It's a very high and mighty position, but he doesn't really see it that way because he's lived it all his life. You know, he can only see it in the perspective of the only job he's ever had. So to him, it kind of is a small job. Before this moment, they really were just kind of leeching off of the king's money. Oh, this is what it's like for everyone. I was really geeking about these kind of little screaming clips that I have at the end here, because I think this is when the 11 Labs AI voice generator website was new. It made me realize it was able to take the characters' voices and kind of make them do things that they hadn't done before. There wasn't any clips of them screaming or nothing like that. So in this moment, I was able to generate it with 11 labs, and I was really excited about being able to do that. I'm surprised the Always Sunny theme doesn't get copyright claimed.
So what are contact your local info more your
That little doodle right there is just something I made in Photoshop. I was just born. It was this little very spur of the moment little doodle I did right there. And I ended up just kind of throwing it on a piece of paper and using it in this video.
what the fuck is that?
I think he means we've got to talk to Impa's lawyer.
I mean, apparently she ain't got a very good lawyer. She's, if she stays locked up for this entire series, it's been going like a year or two now and she's still locked up. So, I mean, how good could that lawyer be?
Impa's lawyer.
Yeah, this is the one, I think my goal with this episode was kind of to get across the message that, like, these two really do share a brain cell when they're together. They're just as incompetent as each other. With their powers combined, they really couldn't find their way out of a paper bag. And I did see quite a few comments about how people enjoyed this different kind of dynamic between the two of them. So I'm glad to hear that my different approach to these characters ended up being something people can enjoy.
My friend Zelda, and I will take 2 jobs to go, please. We can jump
Pure
back to
disbelief.
our sold out.
Can't believe what he's hearing.
Have the job. It's some say work.
I sure did.
Then, of course, there was the whole Pizza Tower kind of impact sound effect when he shows up. That was very intentional. And this face right here, I can't remember who it was drawn by. It'll say so at the end there. But I have posted the blank template of the sprite of Zelda's face, and I just erased all the facial features off. And I told people on Twitter that they could draw their own face on it, and I might put it in a video. So this one and the next one are the ones I ended up using.
Friend Link, could you come with me to my cheese factory?
Really just a way to get free labor. Both him and me are outsourcing this to my Twitter followers. This was just some random animation I had found online of like a hand waving, and I thought it would be funny if, like, for whatever reason in this one shot, she just has this very realistically moving, detailed, almost like rotoscoped looking hand. I thought it would be like a really strange kind of gag to just do for one part of this video and just never bring it up again.
Did you say something about pizza?
Kind of making something out of the running gag that Mario just kind of appears every time there's a mention of pizza. I think it might as well make something out of that if I'm going to use that gag more than once.
Under what condition?
That little that was also 11 labs. It was it really came in clutch with certain things in this episode for getting these characters to do things that they had never done before. So this whole sequence, of course, was inspired by the Mario movie and the kind of retro commercial they did. Another one that got a little rust near the end there. I did originally plan to show the sequence of Link going from working at a cheese factory to working over for Morshu. But at the same time, I feel that it's kind of funny that we don't get to see what ends up happening over at the cheese shop, and we just know there was some sort of incident where he ends up blowing up the cheese factory, despite only working there for about like 10 minutes. This is, of course, Stuart K. Riley, aka Working Man Games, of YouTube Folk News fame.
Can you people kindly get the fuck out of my closet?
So I guess he really is under the impression that the whole world is his closet, as in, like, that's not the exit to his house, it's more just this humongous closet that he's got in his house.
My closet?
Now, this is the user Fangzone XP, that ended up doing the sprite I mentioned earlier. I think the next one's right here. Wabbit Guy on Twitter. I got quite a bit of submissions. I just put them all at the end here. A lot of good work. Thank you all. Alright, now on to Dating Videos 4. Now, for this one, I tried to go in a bit of a different direction, whereas with the third one, I was kind of trying more to emulate the style that Swoosh Films had done, where it's kind of just the character saying dirty things to the camera for a good, like, 20 or so seconds. In this one, I kind of tried to just go with the style that I normally use for my YouTube poops, or at least my interpretation of CDI characters and this kind of little story thing I got going on. You know, if I end up dragging out this dating videos thing, you're gonna see a few repeats. It's completely intentional. It really is just me trying out different styles with these. So Zelda Harkinian, that is indeed her last name, and it's a little strange to think of it that way sometimes. That really is her last name because it's her father's last name, so why wouldn't it be hers? Already a big fan of the inconsistency of her size compared to the bed. The new computer curse, she's tied to a bed for most of it. She could barely fit on the thing, is all I'm trying to say. But here it seems like she barely takes up a spot in it. She could form it like it's an ocean. You know, real great job there, Ray William Johnson. You did good with this one. I really got my mileage out of that sprite I made of her facing forward. I think it's a rather funny little gag.
As you have a 10-inch dick or huge titties, don't pretend like you can do better. I'm a fucking princess and I can steal your dick.
I really do think on her end this really was just a stream of consciousness for her, is that what do I got on my mind right now? Huge dicks and big titties. That's what's on my mind right now. I'm gonna say that to the camera, and ain't nobody gonna stop me.
You should totally go on a date with Link. Why?
I think this is around when I first started using AI voices. Now, I've seen a few people kind of call me out on this in the comments. Yes, I do use a mixture of sentence mixing and AI voices nowadays. I think the way I do it is a good compromise between the two because with the newest advancements in AI voices, you're able to get things that sound nearly spot on to the original, and I get why that's concerning to a lot of people. So in my poops, I kind of use a mixture of the two. I'll mix in AI-generated voice dialogue with actual segments of dialogue from that character, so it still has that sound of sentence mixing while also having some AI voice in there. I think in this particular instance, it kind of helps you get a better delivery out of certain lines. I do think certain lines are funnier if they're delivered a certain way, which isn't always possible with sentence mixing, so I think this is the next best thing, just to kind of mix the two mediums together. I know not everyone's a big fan of that, but I think it's what works best for me, so it's what I'm gonna do.
Well, let's just say, I'm very desperate.
He really does think that's a flex. I think he really, in his tiny little brain, he really does feel to say that he's desperate is some kind of hook, line, and sinker to tell the ladies.
I am the only one with the magic carpet. What? Great, under red carpet.
It's just a blatant lie on his part. Jesus Christ, you people are fucking annoying. They really were, I was trying to sleep.
Unlike someone else.
Oh, how nice of you to mention me. This is Mushu here, and if you wanna talk about
The kind of gag I was going for here was like, one person starts a video and then another person takes over and then another person. It's just complete madness. It's like the camera's tossed around. And this is originally going to be what the whole video was, but I figured it would be funny if I stuck to the original format in a way. This gag in itself was highly inspired by the Tim and Eric Awesome Show, the Prices gag. I think only one person in the comments pointed that out, so shout out to you. Tim and Eric is a huge inspiration to me, like 90% of my sense of humor is that show. Go check it out if you haven't already.
my competitor is a fraud and a liar and an alleged prostitute.
Morshu, he sees Ushram as like someone who is below him, and he is the most successful business owner of the two. They're the only two real shopkeepers in all Hyrule, and so they're constantly going at each other's throat, because there really is no other competition other than each other, so every chance they get, they will kind of dunk on each other like you see in here. Another thing that makes the AI voices a little more convenient in certain places, I can do gags like that. That was Morshu doing the My Leg gag from SpongeBob. Oh, and I think this is the first video where I introduced that kind of little wiggly effect. I think I mentioned it earlier, but I didn't quite acknowledge it in that sense. A lot of people have compared it to like Ed, Edd n Eddy. I think my thought process with doing that kind of like squiggly line effect, essentially when you look at the cutscenes in the video game, I think what makes them so infamous is like this thing, when you think about the Morshu cutscene, that man is like constantly in motion, or like, certain things are over animated, people are moving around like zipping across the screen when they really don't need to be. And so I kind of wanted to like live up to that in a certain fashion while kind of staying to my limited animation style. So I think the wiggle is a good compromise because like it gives off the illusion that this thing that you're seeing is like constantly in motion. You know, even when a character's standing still, they're wobbly. You know, they're moving all over the place as if they're waiting to kind of just burst out of their seams. And you know, at first I was a little hesitant to do it. I thought people would find it distracting, but it seems like the majority of people in the comics really do appreciate that detail. So it's definitely here to stay. So a few things about that whole sequence. I think the joke I was going with here is like essentially every insult they fling towards each other here is completely hypocritical. You know, Wushram here, he accuses Morshu of getting all his shit from Toad Slays in the Mushroom Kingdom, and he says, you know, he says he hasn't been to the Mushroom Kingdom despite using up the Thwomp. And then, real quick on this end, there's a bit of an inside joke between me and a friend here. If you're listening to this, I get to keep the Monty Python foot. It's mine now. And you know, he says here, oh, all you do is step on people's dreams, despite the fact that he just had a big foot step on Morshu. You know, it's a lot less funny when I say it out loud. It's supposed to be a little more of a subtle gag, I guess. But I guess this video is for the more dense motherfuckers in my audience. It just becomes a shit flinging fest at this point, you know, not that it wasn't already. So as I said, there's already like a repeat here. Now, if you recognize that background music, I will tell you that's completely intentional. So Hungry Girl here, the thing is with her is, she really was originally just supposed to be a little gimmick character, but I'm really coming around to the idea of using her more often. Mostly because, as I mentioned earlier, you know, with the advancements in AI voice technology, you can kind of break these characters out of the few lines that they have. I think the better example is Lupe dating video that's coming up. I'll kind of speak my piece on it when we get there.
I can't exactly film my video yet. I'm waiting for someone to come help me.
It has the pretense of a hungry girl kind of inviting Zelda over. She got a bit of a thing for Princess Zelda.
Don't worry, your pretty little head. Zelda's gonna make you a perfect date.
You know, that really is something she said without thinking. You know, to say, oh, don't worry, your pretty little head. You know, that's just a very casual thing that some people say. But, you know, being completely oblivious to her feelings, that's essentially kicking the hornet's nest for her.
It's okay, take your time.
Again with the blue hands. Now, what I'll say about this Lupe clip before we even start, consider this my case for AI voices and YouTube poop. I get that, you know, sentence mixing is the tradition, and truly I agree, and I'll never let that die. However, when it comes to things like this, these other CDI games, there's a lot of characters in here that I feel have a lot of potential. Lupe being one of them, the Hungry Girl being one of them, someone like Oma, and the thing is, some of those characters only have like 1 or 2 lines. And you know, if you want to get the best mileage out of these characters, the lines they have aren't really going to do it. And I know a lot of people say like, oh, but Morshu only has 2 lines. But people have made him say literally anything. There's no excuse. Well, the thing is, Morshu is a very special case. A lot of people say like, oh my god, Morshu must be so hard to sentence mix. I don't think he's very hard to sentence mix. He essentially gives you every syllable you need in those 2 lines. Just about every syllable you're going to need to throw together a word is in those 2 lines. And that's all well and good with Morshu, but it isn't with everyone else. There are characters with more lines than Morshu that don't give you all the right syllables that you're going to need, therefore making certain words impossible to pronounce using these characters. Lupe was a big case of that. I think they only have like 2-3 lines, and there really just isn't enough to work with there. If I wanted to make them a more reoccurring character anyway, which I really do want to, you know, I love these characters. I'd love to expand on what's been set up with them in these video games. As minimal as it is, I'd like to pick up the ashes of these characters and make something completely new out of them. I believe that's the essence of YouTube poop in a way, just taking these pre-existing things and making something new out of them, and I feel like AI voices give a lot of potential to that. With all that said, I don't think this gag would have been possible without it. Once again, I see Lupe as someone who wants to see themselves as like this big and mighty warrior, and you know they are. They could probably kill you in one swift glance, but, you know, they just can't help breaking up those little doggy instincts. They literally can't help it. So now we got Mario here again. For the character of Mario, I mentioned before, he's kind of supposed to be just this everyman. You know, I took some inspiration from characters like Trevor from GTA or Carl from Octane Hunger Force. You know, he's a bit of a schlubby little dude, a bit of a mess, but you know, he could pull his life together if he really tried. But he's a very simple man at the end of the day. He doesn't need a lot. He's definitely a man of simple pleasures. You know, he loves his toast, he loves his pizza, he loves his wife, and he loves his plumbing job, and that's really just about all he needs.
Blue eyes, baby. Where? Pink dress. Wait a minute.
I really don't think there is anyone else but him.
Have fun, Jack. Off our phone.
You know, he's definitely that one uncle that kind of teases you at every family reunion.
I need sex money. A bad witch with a fat ass. I'm looking for someone who can appreciate the beauty of Hyrule.
I think it's just something that kind of runs in this family, but they really do just speak their mind in this moment. They just flip on the camera and they're like, oh, what am I thinking of right now? And they'll kind of just unleash that on you.
Hyrule, but most of all, someone who can make your dinner. Never mind.
You know, talking about these things might be bringing back some uncomfortable memories for him.
Zelda, I'm sorry. I think I got a migraine.
It's not a very comfortable situation to him. You know, he's looking over, he's seeing his old record player.
I need a woman that can listen to good music with me.
You know, so about that part, the record he's seeing over on the counter, along with the conversation he's having with the camera here, really brought back some uncomfortable memories for him. You know, the poor guy just flipped on the camera to do a little dating video for whatever this is being submitted to. I like to imagine it's like being submitted to one of those old dating game shows from like the 80s and 90s. And you know, this really was just his little audition here, but didn't turn out too well to him and ended up bringing back some terrifying memories.
Father, can you tell Link to stop interrupting my video?
Don't
It's very rude. I was just about to show everyone how I can juggle oranges with my feet, but now I'm never gonna share my talent with the world like that.
Very inconsiderate of the two of them here. He's clearly having an episode there. So that would be Hyrule Dating Videos 4. You know, I liked it. I like how it turned out. You know, the debut of the little wiggly effect, debut of kind of these little more cartoony gags, I'd say. You know, from the beginning I've wanted to do more, you know, wacky shenanigans of these characters, or these pulling out all the stops, going full Hanna-Barbera mode. I think this is the first one to kind of tug in that direction. Right now, Hyrule Dating Videos 5, again with the Aqua Teen Hunger Force inspiration here. I think this is when Carrot kind of went for her transition from text-to-speech to a complete AI voice. You know, I do like the wider range they can get out of that. And I think I remember seeing a comment on this one about how, you know, so the magic is lost when you switch from a text-to-speech over to an AI, because there's some jankiness to that text-to-speech. And, you know, I do agree. I do enjoy, like, the kind of wonkiness of that old text-to-speech. But at the same time, I do think it's worth it in the long run to kind of have a more expressive voice coming out of this character. And, you know, technically the text-to-speech is an AI voice in the first place, so it's not that far of an extension anyway. My screwdriver. Assistant, if you would, please.
You never hired an assistant. You just hired me to buy you Lunchables and make out.
This is something she just kind of came up with in the moment. You know, it's something they've never done before, but she woke up today and was like, hey, let's play scientist. I seek out a worthy assistant for my scientific endeavors. But now, I must ask, who is worthy of my presence?
Some guy outside playing the guitar to earn money.
So that would be a good friend of mine with some music. You know, as I mentioned before, I've become a little more comfortable reaching outside of the source material, kind of making new characters, adding new characters. I think my thought process with that in the first place was kind of just to show that, like, more people exist in this world than what we had seen in the games. There are more people that exist in Hyrule. And of course, I just enjoy drawing friends' characters and, you know, throwing them into wacky scenarios. Alright, everyone, we're gonna do a series where you'll answer the board. Rest in piss, you ugly bits. Shout out to anyone who knows what this quote is down here. Don't tell anyone. Unimportant, and occasionally degenerate questions in my comment section. I get quite a few of those, actually. It's a little more than occasional. I guess I thought it would be funny to reveal that this whole series hinges on these people essentially being bribed with a bag of fruit gushes. I mean, tell me you wouldn't do it.
Question for Glonum. What do the symbols on your scroll really mean?
They mean that only Link can defeat Ganon. Easy
I mean, you quite literally read them out in the
Will
game.
you declare
Everyone in Korodai would keep
That picture back there is all of them in their pajamas.
So annoying.
Peach, hypothetically, if those are ever kids,
Her name is Toadstool, by the way. This particular instance of her, she only goes by Toadstool, kind of just running with what the standard was at the time, and I think around this time it was just Princess Toadstool.
you again, could you stop him? And if so, how would you stop him?
Well, ever since that incident, I stay strapped. Check it out. My friend from Sarasaland gave me this one.
I wonder who her friend from Sarasiland could possibly be. It's a big mystery. I don't know who that is, but I don't know, maybe we'll meet her one day in the future, who knows? I think a good portion of this video is just gonna be me kind of breaking down my goal for these characters, but with Peach here, I think she's a bit of a, I guess you could say she has a little bit of Southern in her, you know, she's very much like a housewife, so you can also be quite assertive at times. You'll kind of hear like a noise in her backyard and come marching outside with the AK-47. And I feel like that's another contrast between her and Zelda, you know.
Do you have a toilet where you are sitting, or are you just sitting in 28 years worth of crap?
Now, me personally, I would have just said he doesn't shit. I mean, he's standing there, he's not eating nothing.
Third woman is
He don't got shit, nothing.
sexy, hot, chick, and beautiful in the world.
Y'all are just stroking my ego, you know that? Going online typing these kind of comments. It's what I live for. Well, wow, I'm really flattered. Give me your mom's credit card number. You might as well at that point. You know, you're willing to say that much, put your money where your mouth is.
Jump out the narrow
Once again, I think with these kind of
window,
questions,
fly
Zelda really is
forward,
just kind of taking the piss out of him.
Ganon, how does it
Kind of
feel
just
to
dived out the
go
window
through-
there. You know, it really was for the bit, but I don't think she thought that one out too thoroughly. She thought it would be, she was probably thinking to herself, like, oh, it's going to be so funny if I lead him on and then just hop out the window, without considering the repercussions of jumping out of a glass window from the second story of a building.
Probably be the only question you get this video.
Y'all need to ask my boy more
What's your
questions.
favorite color? Now you have more than one question.
Yeah, that's more like it.
Question for Mario. What would you do if your hand was jammed in the toaster?
Probably take myself over to the bathroom.
Is that something that happens to people? I don't know. Toaster ovens are better anyway. Yeah, he was just sitting in the pool there with his toaster on his hand, and, you know, despite it being broad daylight outside, he just happened to get struck by lightning. It was a very unlucky stroke right there.
Are you a simp for that?
I simp for no one, not even the
What even led you to believe that?
For Zelda, what is your reaction to the fact that all of the other Zeldas are cuter and
As I was referring to earlier, you know, some people down here are, like, really insistent that, like, this iteration of Zelda sucks and, like, oh, all the other ones are much cooler.
hotter than you?
It makes me so sad that someone could be so incorrect. Most of them aren't even playable characters.
You know, once again, with that kind of, like, high ego she seems to have built up over the years, it's more so just high self-confidence. She's fully aware of the position she grew up in, and she kind of just wears it on her sleeve.
What's your favorite plush?
We have this really cute plush. Hey, wait a minute. Another bit of a random question, but I like it. I think the kind of change I made around the time of this video is less of the reliance on this kind of one drawing that I made, and more so kind of shifting towards drawings that I make for the characters in the moment that they're in. It's not quite as prevalent in this video as it's going to be in some of the videos following it. It's definitely a change I felt was for the better as the series goes on. I don't want to just rely on the one drawing, so I made multiple for like different expressions and stuff like that. It's definitely something I want to do more going forward. Here's a gag I kind of wanted to do for a while now. I'm a bit of an active member, not really, but, you know, I pop in at the Ocarina of Time Online mod scene, and someone in there by the name of Amara made me a carrot model for Ocarina of Time Online, and, you know, it was a very generous move on their part, and I really do appreciate it, and so I figured I might as well work it into the video. I really do love this. It's a fantastic thing. And I figured this gag with, like, the Capri Sun, you know, the commercials of back in the day, they step on the pouch, something crazy happens. Well, it was the perfect time to kind of show off this little model that someone made for me. Amazing work here.
Question for Harkinian. What is your tax policy?
You asked this under the literal episode where I answered that question.
Yeah, that's something I'm gonna start doing too. These people, to ask them questions that they've already answered, especially so in the episode where they already answered them, they are gonna call you out on it, man. They're not gonna show you any mercy either. They're gonna call you right out to your face.
Right harder next time.
Now that Mario and Luigi are famous movie stars, what will they spend their royalties from ticket sales on?
Again, with like the only questions the Mario Bros seem to get being, like questions about other iterations of the character. Despite me making it clear before that the other iterations of the Mario Bros aren't the same ones as this one. But I get it. I get it. It's a safe assumption to make.
Just because we are the same people doesn't mean we're the same people.
I think that quote sums it up perfectly. Just because one's Mario, one's Luigi, and the other one is Mario and the other one's Luigi. They wear the same clothes. They are the same person, but they're not the same person. You gotta stop thinking that way. It's a high level of thinking, but you gotta think that way.
Does Hyrule use the metric system?
What the fuck is a kilometer?
I think I've made enough jokes about inches and feet that should be quite obvious. Yeah, these buckos don't know what a kilometer is.
Question for Carrot Woman and Zelda. When will you just get married already?
That's gotta be one of the most annoying things to couples. People coming up to you that, hey, when you getting married? Hey, why you gotta put all that pressure on people, man?
What are you trying to rush things for? We're busy with the murder mystery.
I'm not ready to merge bank accounts.
What?
That's exactly where mine was at the moment, I never think she's not ready to share her money with other people. How are you gonna ask them all this in the middle of a murder mystery? You got your priorities in the wrong spot, Mr. Jurassic Bacon.
And pesky plumbers, did you know Morshu stole the last box of spaghetti and loaf of bread?
I sell both of these.
We might have here.
As long as we're all happy, you won't want to question my business.
Again, with just kind of using the default animation for him there, but I guess it worked if that specific context. I think the kind of joke I was trying to get at here was Morshu kind of like steals shit and resells it in his shop. And like that's his tactic. It's a dirty tactic that he uses, but he's saying like, my customers are happy to buy from me, so like why are you spoiling the fun? We're all happy here. No one needs to know.
Send all his donations to this address.
This picture back here, I love these pictures you're going to see in this picture frame are inside jokes between other friends and I, but I'm sure most people would just find them funny, just on face value. These pictures are funny enough that I feel safe to put them in here where it won't alienate a bunch of people. And of course, that's not the real address. Maybe he went up to the king or someone asked, he like, oh, what's our address? I want to publish it online. And so they just kind of gave him some fake shit. He really is that naive. He really would just put his location online if someone asked.
I could use some after some dumbass blew up the cheese factory.
Finally, Carrot
One of
Woman
it did that.
will gain tons of subscribers.
Excuse me? I've been actively trying to shed a few of yours. Why would you say that to the... Yeah, your dick-sucking tactics won't work this time. Well, would you think I was gonna be flattered by that?
People mistake me for a homeless man, then they give me money for some reason.
In reality, they see the king, and those medieval times, they're like, oh my goodness, it's the king, your majesty, your highness, and they're throwing money at him. Oh, the way the king sees it, as he sees this as just any of the jobs, oh, they must think I'm a homeless man or something, the way they're throwing money at me. Maybe I could have made that joke a little more clear, because as it is, I don't think that's the first assumption most people would make, but I think it's still quite a good joke regardless.
Zelda, why do you find Lincoln attractive? What should he do to win you over?
I think it's as simple as, he's not her type. I think she likes both for men and women to be like the burlier type. You have a little meat on them, and Link just isn't that. That's my interpretation anyways.
It is only 2 minutes with the fast travel mechanic. Sadly, it comes with microtransactions.
Yeah, good to know that even in this fictional medieval times land, they still live in a capitalist hell.
Mario and Luigi, what are the best toppings to put on pizza?
I love me some sausage.
Do you get it?
I get it.
Question
It's
for
'cause he's
Zelda and
gay.
Carrot Girl. If you were to wear shoes, what brand would you buy and where would you buy them?
I think originally here she was going to be like, oh, I feel so pretty, but I found it regardless. I think the punchline of having the Lightning McQueen Crocs on was good enough. It didn't need to be followed up by anything. I think they both just kind of walk around barefoot. As I said previously, I think it's just something they kind of bond over. Maybe that'll be elaborated on day, but he's gonna have to wait till we get there. But I also love to imagine that they were just like at Walmart or something. They saw these Lightning McQueen Crocs, and then they just completely lost their shit. They're like, oh my god, we need those. I mean, don't tell me you'd be able to resist.
What has been the king drinking all this time?
Nothing. I kept my pet and the cuckoo in this cup.
To the king, did you ever find out lots for dinner?
A strangely shaped rotisserie chicken.
Yeah, it's a bit of a joke there. You might need to be a Zelda player to get. I don't know.
What's the first thing you're going to do once you inherit the crown from Harkinian?
Launch the dictatorship.
We miss you, Kate.
She was one step ahead of you with that one. Now it's time for the question responses. This segment is self-explanatory. Please let me go to bed. I guess the name could have been a little less vague than something like the question responses, because that's kind of just what I've been doing for this whole episode. It's all just question responses. But yeah, this section is kind of became a necessary thing at this point, being as some people leave follow-up questions to the questions that I answer in previous videos. Expect to see more of this in future installments.
Does Gollum keep under that turban?
Not turning.
Okay, but what's under that?
Nothing.
Yeah, he just wears two turbans. One just for the look of it, two for protection. In case he drops one, he's always got another backup one. But he doesn't need anything more than that. And I will say he does have quite nice, luscious long hair. He will show you his hair if you ask, but he prefers to keep that on.
A reply to Zelda. Man, I ain't got the link on me, but ask CGI Toadstool. She should have link on her.
I kind of saw what Mocha was trying to lead me into there, so I kind of tried to subvert that.
I do.
This is supposed to be a different joke, but you gotta go to the bathroom.
Something about that kind of like dry, awkward humor. Just like they were planning to tell this big joke where like Link was on top of her, but then like they zoom out as just this big unceremonious clip of Mario just going, yeah, this is supposed to be a banner joke, but we couldn't really get it together in time.
Carrots, welcome to Hell. Do you like how I decorated the welcome area? Every Tuesday is grievance night where we share grievances with other residents about the people of the living world via casserole.
You know what? This place ain't too bad. I had the idea while editing this. I do think it would be a funny mini-series, just like these two just venturing around in hell. Would that be a good idea? I don't know. I don't know how that would be in execution. It was just a quick little idea, but I do find the idea very funny. These two just kind of bumbling their way around in hell. Maybe bring her along like some of the other Hyrule cast. For now, it'll stay as a gag within the interviews episodes, but that idea is never off the table.
Take it off. Take it off. Take it off.
Originally there, I was gonna have him like take off his shoes, and you just be like, I just want to fit in, being as his other two roommates, walk around completely barefoot. But I also had existing sprites of Link without the hat and his little face talking sprite from the tutorial, and I figured might as well give that some kind of use as well as establish what Link looks like without his hat.
Why don't you just mind your own business and let us ask questions about feet?
No, Mocha. Mocha, you can ask as many questions about feet as you want. I could literally play this game of ping pong for the rest of my life.
Fine, I don't care anymore.
But I don't think Quantum can. Well, I guess since everyone's gone, you should clean up around here.
Got him! You were spotted at the scene of the crime with glass on your face.
It was you, random villager whose name I never bothered to learn. Beyond this moment, they're accusing him of being the one who put those glass shards in Zelda's head. And their evidence they're using here is that there's glass on the assistant's face, when in reality, it's just his glasses. It's the fact that he's wearing glasses that made them think that he was the one to put that glass shard through Zelda's head. Not sure if I quite communicated that one correctly, but there you go. That's how intelligent these people are.
We were going to let you scrub our toilets.
What do you have to say for yourself? I also love the delivery of like, oh, we were going to let you scrub our toilets, as if like that's this big privilege, again with the egos.
A question for Carrot. I think that's her name. What kind of music do you like? I can perform that for you.
Oh, stop it. You're too nice to us. So that was Hyrule Royalty Interviews 5, you know, the series that gets more degenerate by the episode. I had a lot of fun with it. I have a lot of fun with these Hyrule Royalty Interviews episodes, even if they are just kind of what I go to whenever I can't, or I'm not in the mood to do a story-based episode. Regardless, I have a lot of fun with these, and I have a lot of fun interacting with the people in the comments. I don't know how long the dating videos will go on for, but the interviews are definitely here to stay. These are a lot of fun to do. And lastly, the Princess's Epic Adventure. As of recording this audio, it was only posted 12 days ago. It'll probably be later by the time I put this out, but it is the newest video on the channel. So if the Hit in the Works episode was kind of supposed to show the dynamic between Link and Zelda and the way they go about their craziness around the world, whatever it is that they're doing, the way they interact with each other and the way they bounce off of each other, this is supposed to be a bit of a showcase for Carrot and Zelda and like how they go about doing stuff. I think originally my plan here was to have this be a little more like an RPG parody, like some sort of like Final Fantasy or like Mario RPG type of video where like they encounter various enemies, which are in reality are just normal people in their way. But I opted to go for more of a adventure type video instead.
Work something out.
This is a completely original sprite of the back of Morshu's head here. I actually quite like the way it blends in to this pre-existing cutscene. Really does look like she's talking right in Morshu's face right now. Your reign of terror ends now. The Gals Association of Young Sheriffs is here to save the day. Shout out to those of you who got the joke of the Gals Association of Young Sheriffs. I only saw one person point it out. Now, as for these sprites, I used both in the thumbnail and right here, and then a little cutscene later. This art was done by Insert NH. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, but very talented individual. Definitely one of my favorite artists I've ever seen online. Go check them out. I definitely love to feature more of their work in the future.
I wasn't robbing this store, you fools.
So the way these characters function is there's a lot of like spur of the moment ideas that they have, and they just kind of go for it. You know, being people that live in this big fancy castle, they kind of just believe they can do everything, and to an extent they can. You know, if you can dream it, you can do it. It's just that they don't all have, you know, the intelligence to get it done efficiently, but they'll definitely do their best. And so the idea here is that they kind of just woke up this morning and they're like, hey, what if we became, you know, crime fighters? We run around town stopping crime.
She was simply soliciting sex in exchange for goods and services.
And, you know, they really did run into a crime here, and they could have very easily stopped it right here, but they kind of just didn't. I'm guessing they didn't know that was illegal to do. Hence the sheer incompetence of the Gales Association of Young Sheriffs.
No problem except your terrible breath.
How dare you? Simply being pimping gals isn't a punchline. That's quite a mean line I put in there, actually. You know, I don't think a whole lot of people are gonna really understand what she meant by that. Of course, this lovely little illustration here. You know, I think that's beautiful. You say what you will. They were just having a passionate moment right here. You can't hate on that. Oh my God, he's right.
Whoa, but I just brushed my teeth last week.
Yeah, not the most hygienic people living in medieval times. And, you know, again, with like the sporadicness of just coming up with these ideas on the spot, they went from, these crime fighters just, as soon as they're inconvenienced, they go straight into the life of crime. And, you know, they may have the collective IQ of a walnut, but I mean, look, they're happy.
Conceal the door, please, Mr. Norris. I'm doing that already.
I like to think Norris, you know, he's kind of just an all-around guy. He's the assistant to pretty much everyone that he can get his grubby little hands on, you know. Whatever job he can get around town, he's usually just an assistant role. So I usually find him as like the second-hand man to some much more important person.
You two are out of line.
We're really trying our best here. Did anyone get that joke? Like, genuinely, did anyone understand what was being communicated there? I'm legitimately curious. Going along with that theme of me just kind of explaining who these characters are, you know, giving you brief little descriptions of these characters, I've always imagined Mayor Cavendish to be one of the more serious characters. You know, he had his previous appearance in one of the interviews episodes, kind of just adding some pressure onto Morshu, and here he is kind of just grilling these two girls, and you know, as goofy as they are, he's really having none of it. And, you know, being the mayor of whatever, he may be the mayor of Gamelon, but we don't quite know. I don't think anyone really knows what he's the mayor of, but he is a mayor. He's got some level of authority, and, you know, I think at any given moment he's ready to enforce it.
You are a member of royalty. Is that correct? Shooting someone in your position.
I think deep down he kind of, like, envies that role.
Probably.
And you, where
I'd
exactly
love to be
do
a
you
member
come
of
from?
royalty. So, I don't know.
You can't even answer that. Then tell me, what exactly is it that you're doing here?
He's a big fan of keeping things in order. And lick each other's faces. You know, there's a lot of disorder going on here. He's not quite a fan of it. Well, I mean, I don't know. It started off as a joke in the first Isle Royalty interviews episode, but then people just kind of just kind of spilling my thoughts here. I do think Mayor Cavendish ultimately does care quite a bit about his citizens. He just has he just has a real cold shell around him at all times. You know, he's not going to let his guard down at any moment. Even if he really does want the best for his citizens, his role as an authority figure kind of comes first to him.
No.
Oh.
God damn it, get out of my jail cell. I still have 3 weeks.
Yeah, the joke that I seen there I was kind of trying to lead the viewer to believe that it was the two of them that were getting arrested, when in fact it was Cavendish that was in this jail cell for 3 weeks. Who knows why? I don't think they ever bothered to ask. You know, of course, here's the NHR once again. Very talented person. I really love how this turned out.
The bad news is Quantum's carpet is out of gas, so he can't pick us up.
I thought the carpet didn't run on gas.
Oh, no, it doesn't.
This was really just his way of getting out of giving these two a ride from an island. No one wants to go pick someone up from a location they're going to have to drive like 30, 40 minutes to go get them. I think we've all come up with a lie to get out of that specific scenario before. And, you know, Guanum's no different. You know, it doesn't matter if your life may be in danger. He's not driving 40 minutes to go get you.
Did you want a Tesla there, mate?
Oh, deck you in the head there, young lass.
I'll punch you.
Once again, these two are quite sporadic in the way that they think. And, you know, as soon as shit kind of hits the fan here, you know, they're kind of stranded here and they don't really know what to do. So their first instinct is to kind of just blame it on each other. I think they just kind of have that dynamic as to where, like, they'll immediately get really angry at each other, kind of avoid responsibility right off the bat and just kind of pin it on someone else. This is, of course, a reference to one of my favorite game series ever. I got inspired to draw that boxer sprite of Zelda after finding this artist by the name of Neto Attempts. They draw a lot of, like, boxing and fighting related stuff, and it kind of inspired me there. Really getting my mileage out of these drawings. And that, of course, is a reference to Hoodwinked 2. Wonderful, wonderful movie, absolutely flawless. Oh, look at that. It is our loyal yet useless assistant from the other video whose name I still haven't learned. Did you guys watch that one? His name is, of course, Music, but, she's never bothered to learn that. And, you know, he's not much of a talker anyway, so it's not like he's gonna tell her anyway.
Wanna hear about the time that I went to find some lesbians on an island?
You know, Link found it necessary to tell them that in that moment, that, like, he recalled this story to Ganon on some separate instance, which didn't even make a whole lot of sense, but that's the way Link decided to tell a story, apparently.
But why us?
I already had my adventure.
Oh.
And, of course, is a reference to the King's Epic Adventure, which is a very classic series by Gaiwu-chan. Definitely a big inspiration for this video in the first place. Also, I don't think I've mentioned it, but I began to do these kind of sprites here, which are kind of original. They're traceovers of poses that they do in the cutscenes, but blown up by 2 times. So it's like 2 times the pixels in a pose that they already did in one of the cutscenes. I think I had done the same for one of Zelda's poses that's gonna pop up later in this video again. I'll point it out when it comes up. But it's another technique that I've kind of picked up to kind of get more mileage out of these sprites and get more expressive faces out of them. I don't think he has a collection of the dirty clothes, you know, despite him carrying off a big pile of dirty socks in the other video. In reality, what he thinks to be his collection is just like a hamper in the corner of the room that she already puts her dirty clothes in anyway. You know, Link's a bit of a weirdo, and he's very aware of that fact, but in this situation, I guess it was a little necessary. And, you know, like K9, just as soon as he gets a whiff of her scent, he's just immediately off to go find her. Perhaps he was part wolf in another life.
And that's all.
But how are we gonna get out of here?
Your friend stole a boat.
Link kind of just swam across the ocean. He performed a little super swim there and swam across the ocean to get here, kind of stranding their sister behind, and so he had no other choice but to steal a boat and kind of catch up.
I guess we shot you boys well.
Those two gals were indeed criminals earlier. You know, they held Morsha at gunpoint, and the immediate assumption is that the guys were inspired by that, when in reality, they have no idea that these two were criminals at any point. Hence Link's confusion here. This is also a bit of a gag, due to the fact that Link has always been slightly shorter than the girls he shares his room with. You know, in this particular shot, they kind of just tower over him, when in reality, there's only about like an inch difference between the two of them.
One small change to that scenario could have altered our fates.
This would be the first time she's had a thought like this. They regularly go through these kind of crazy events, and this would be the first time that she really considered that the thing that got them out of this situation was something completely out of their hands. You know, it was complete luck that those guys showed up to save them. You know, it was something completely out of their hands, and, you know, if it wasn't for them, they probably would have frozen on that island. You know, and I feel that that kind of awakened something in her. Between one important, all we really know is our own perspective, and, well, that's all we're ever gonna know. So, why would we want to put all of our focus into the grander picture instead of living life through our own eyes? I gotta say, it's pretty nice down here. Anything can happen. I feel like a lot of people stress over what their life could be as to the positive aspects of their life as they're currently living it. Whoa. I believe this is the sprite I was talking about. This is one of the sprites from the One of Gamelon cutscenes. I kind of took it and made it 2 times the size here. So I kind of wanted to shift gears a little bit here. This would be one of the first genuine attempts at something other than comedy in these videos.
Audio journal log, day 10,993 in the void.
10,993 was the amount of time since the CDI games had come out when I was editing the scene. I'm sure it's been quite some time since then, but as of the existence of this scene, that is how long that this figure had been waiting down here in this void.
Lush fields, the grandeur of the temples, the busy towns, all swallowed by the ferocious maw of the void.
I've always had the idea that the CDI games really are connected to the main Zelda timeline in a very convoluted way, in a very kind of wacky and nonsensical way, but they are connected. And really, would the CDI games be connected to the mainline Zelda games in any other way?
A nightmarish rendition of the Hyrule I vowed to safeguard. What force could warp the very fabric of reality into this grotesque manifestation of despair? Yet I endure.
This is kind of just a monologue of someone who's been trapped in this void and just been kind of watching this version of Hyrule from below.
A witness of the degradation of a once sacred realm.
And he's experienced the other Hyrules before, but the fact that he's stuck in this one out of all of them is something that really upsets him. And at this point in his existence, he's kind of convinced that this is just some sort of cruel joke being played on him.
Hey Zelda, wake up!
What?
You seem to be having a cool dream, so I brought you some chocolate milk. I hope you enjoy what's left of it.
You know, in this moment, they can't quite figure as to whether what they just saw was a dream or not.
Carrots.
Yeah,
Did you have a strange dream last night?
yeah, I did.
Well, I guess we don't have to worry about that now, right?
Yeah, it was just a stupid dream. But they woke up soaking wet regardless. This did indeed remind her of that dream that she had where they were soaking wet and inches away from death. And I think that will be all of the mainline videos on the channel, or at least all the CDI ones anyway. As it is, I'm very happy where this series is, the things that I've learned from it, the things that I've gotten to do, and the people that I've gotten to meet while doing it. It's been a whole lot of fun, and I definitely look forward to making more of it, and hopefully making this the best it can possibly be. As it is, this really was just kind of me rambling about like where my thoughts were as I was making these videos, so I don't know who this will be interesting to, if anyone else but me. But if you did get some sort of enjoyment out of this, thanks for listening, and more to come in the future.